Welcome to Chronicles and Legends. Please hit that subscribe and let us know where in the world are you tuning in from. Let's get started. The most dangerous astral entities you'll ever encounter. Chapter 1. The Doorway Between Worlds. Entering the Astral Plane. Have you ever jolted awake in the middle of the night, certain that something unseen was in the room with you? A breath that wasn't yours, a stillness that didn't belong, a presence you couldn't see, yet couldn't deny. What if I told you it wasn't just your imagination, but something very real and very ancient? Welcome to Esoteric Explorer. Today, we step beyond the thin veil that separates the waking world from something far older and far more dangerous, a dimension that mirrors our thoughts, amplifies our fears, and houses entities not born of flesh, but of energy. We are about to enter the astral plane, an invisible realm filled with beauty, madness, and things that do not wish us well. And this is only the beginning. In the language of mystics, sages, and occultists, the astral plane is known as the subtle world, a dimension composed not of atoms, but of pure thought and emotion. Unlike the physical world, it bends and shifts according to our inner states. It is dreamlike, yet as solid as intent itself. Esoteric scholars like Helena Blavatsky, Dion Fortune, and Robert Monroe describe this dimension as an energetic reflection of humanity's collective psyche, a layer of existence that sits just beyond the senses, where consciousness travels during sleep, meditation, near-death experiences, and what some call astral projection. But this is no empty void. The astral realm is teeming with entities, some luminous and wise, others twisted and hungry, and among the most dangerous are those born not of spirit, but of our own darkest emotions. Unlike in the material world, where creating something takes effort and time, the astral responds instantly to feeling. In this reactive space, a single, powerful emotion, fear, rage, lust, guilt, can generate what occultists call a thought form, a self-sustaining energetic structure. Now imagine what happens when those thoughts aren't fleeting, but obsessive, replayed night after night, soaked in trauma, repressed desire, or spiritual despair. What emerges are autonomous astral entities. Some are mindless fragments that drift through the lower astral like smoke. Others evolve, feeding on our energy, learning how to deceive, attach, and even communicate. Many occult texts describe these beings as parasitic intelligences, lurking in the heavy, chaotic zones of the lower astral, drawn to places and people where emotional energy bleeds freely. Hospitals, trauma sites, and the bedrooms of the emotionally vulnerable. They don't knock, they seep in. The astral plane is not a single space, it's layered, and those layers correspond to levels of consciousness. At the higher vibrational ranges dwell beings of insight and guidance. But as we move downward into the lower astral, we encounter something else entirely. This is where nightmares come from, a place dense with fear-born entities, echoes of pain, residual energies from wars, abuse, death, and spiritual degradation, a fog of suffering that clings to the soul. Occultists like Israel Regardie and Franz Baden warned that untrained travelers venturing into this realm risk encountering not just unpleasant images, but active, predatory beings, entities that crave fear, that recognize weakness, that mirror our shadows and amplify them. And in these depths, you don't just face monsters, you face yourself. Most of us pass through the astral plane unconsciously every night. It's the space we enter during REM sleep, the liminal zone where dreams happen, where the mind detaches from the body and drifts. Some experience it consciously through lucid dreaming or intentional astral projection, practices that go back thousands of years. Ancient Egyptians, Tibetan monks, and European mystics all documented the art of traversing the non-physical worlds. But there's a catch. When you're aware in the astral, you're also visible to what lives there. You're not just a visitor. You become a beacon. And if your emotional energy is chaotic, if you're angry, fearful, addicted, or lost, then you're bleeding the very fuel these entities consume. And they will come. Despite their power, these entities are bound by esoteric laws. They cannot attack the strong-willed. They cannot feed where there is clarity, love, or discipline. That's why traditional defenses against astral threats don't rely on weapons, but on mental and spiritual hygiene. Visualization of protective light, golden, white, or blue. Sacred symbols, crosses, pentagrams, runes. Crystals like obsidian, tourmaline, or amethyst. Rituals using sage, myrrh, frankincense, or palo santo. Most importantly, a calm, focused mind, free from compulsive desires or destructive emotions. Because ultimately, the entities of the lower astral can only enter where a door has been left open, and we are the ones who open it. In this chapter, we have only scratched the surface of the astral world. What comes next will be darker, deeper, and far more personal. Because the astral plane is not just a haunted mirror of our world. It is a magnifying glass for our soul. And in the next chapters, we'll confront the predators that wait there, the sensual deceivers, the shadowed watchers, the energetic parasites, and the ancient horrors that take shape from our forgotten pain. This journey isn't for the faint of heart, but if you seek truth, if you want to understand what truly lives just beyond the veil, then stay with me. In the next chapter, we meet the most seductive hunters of the astral night, the ones who come disguised as desire. Chapter 2. The Seducers of the Ether, Succubi, Incubi, and Astral Seduction. As we venture further into the shadowed corridors of the astral plane, we begin to encounter entities that don't announce themselves with fear or force. They arrive cloaked in desire. They whisper not from the corners of rooms, but from the hidden recesses of our own cravings. They are not grotesque beasts, at least not at first. They appear as dreams of passion, comfort, or pleasure. But make no mistake, their beauty is the bait, and you are the feast. Tonight, we meet the astral realm's most deceptive predators, entities that use seduction as a weapon. Succubi, incubi, etheric parasites dressed in human fantasies. In the old myths of medieval Europe, whispered through candle-lit corridors and etched into the margins of grimoires, we find tales of succubi and incubi, demonic lovers that slip into dreams, steal breath, and leave their victims drained, delirious, and obsessed. Traditionally, the succubus is described as a female entity who seduces men, while the incubus takes the form of a male tormentor to prey on women. But these are just forms, shapes designed to provoke and manipulate the psyche. In the esoteric view, these are not demons in the religious sense, but astral parasites that feed on life force, manipulating human emotion to gain access to the energy field. They are not creatures of flesh. They are energy given shape by lust, loneliness, obsession, and unresolved desire. These entities often enter through dreams or moments of altered consciousness, states where the astral and physical overlap. In the beginning, they appear alluring, familiar even, a perfect lover, a comforting presence, an erotic figure born from fantasy. But as the interactions grow more frequent, the truth begins to bleed through. Victims describe waking up feeling exhausted, emotionally unstable, bruised, scratched, or marked with no physical cause. Their thoughts spiral into obsession, frequent dreams, intrusive erotic imagery, or compulsive behavior they cannot control. Behind the illusion is a predator that has latched onto their auric field, feeding not on the act of intimacy, but on the energy the experience generates. Pleasure becomes poison. While the succubus or incubus may present as the embodiment of attraction, their true forms are rarely beautiful. Esoteric sources, from the works of occultists like Eliphas Levi to Dion Fortune, describe them as distorted amalgamations of human and inhuman features: glowing eyes, jagged teeth, bat-like wings, elongated fingers, and a presence that turns cold and alien once the illusion drops. In some traditions, they are called dream eaters or soul leeches, feeding on the psychic residue left behind after emotional high states, like lust, fear, or despair. And the more you indulge, the deeper their grip becomes. These entities don't pick their victims at random. They need an opening, an emotional wound, a psychic crack through which to enter. Unresolved trauma obsession with fantasy, or pornography, depression and loneliness, substance abuse, uncontrolled sexual impulses, all of these lower your vibrational state, weakening the aura's natural defenses and drawing their attention like a beacon. They aren't hunting your body, they are targeting your spirit. Over time, victims often report emotional detachment, damaged relationships, and increasing mental instability. It's not uncommon to hear of people suffering from severe sleep disturbances, recurring erotic nightmares, sudden personality changes, uncontrollable cravings or compulsions. The most devastating aspect is often psychic fragmentation, a slow unraveling of the self as the entity sinks hooks into the subconscious, steering thoughts, dreams, and desires from within. Some victims develop what mystics refer to as a soul echo, an imprint left by the entity even after it has detached. They may appear gone, but sometimes they're just waiting for the next moment of weakness. Despite their power, these seducers are not invincible, and they cannot force entry where there is strength and clarity. Spiritual traditions across cultures have developed methods to guard against their influence. Mental discipline, practicing emotional control, mindfulness, and reducing exposure to obsessive fantasies. Energetic shielding, using meditations that visualize golden or violet light surrounding the body. Symbolic wards, wearing protective amulets, sigils, or sacred symbols depending on your spiritual background, for example, pentagrams, crosses, bind runes. Environmental protection, keeping your bedroom energetically clean through salt, herbs like mugwort or lavender, and cleansing incenses such as myrrh or frankincense. Celibacy or sexual abstinence, temporarily withdrawing from sexual activity to weaken the entity's food source. And perhaps most importantly, naming the entity and refusing its control. Because once it is seen clearly, not as a lover but as a parasite, it begins to lose its grip. As one occult maxim teaches, where there is no hunger, the predator starves. It's easy to dismiss these experiences as dreams, fantasies, or products of the subconscious. But in the occult worldview, they are more than that. They are encounters with forces that exist in a liminal space, half thought, half being, born from the darkest corners of human desire. They are not just predators, they are reflections, mirrors, of the parts of ourselves we haven't mastered. And if left unacknowledged, they do not go away, they grow. We have now crossed a major threshold, no longer just observing the astral plane from a distance, but seeing how it penetrates us through our most intimate emotions. The seducers are only the first of many dangers. Next, we will go even deeper, into the presence of something older, colder, and infinitely more personal, an entity that wears our fears as its flesh. In the next chapter, we confront the dweller on the threshold, a being that doesn't just visit the mind, but is born from it. Chapter 3. The Dweller on the Threshold, the Shadow of the Self. Thus far, we have met predators of the astral realm who stalk the vulnerable, feeding on lust, longing, and despair. But not all entities in the astral are external. Some do not sneak in from the shadows, but rise up from within. They know our memories. They wear our guilt, and when they speak, they use our own voices. This is the dweller on the threshold, the ultimate gatekeeper between the self we pretend to be and the self we truly are. You cannot run from it. You cannot hide from it, because it is made from everything you've tried to forget. The term dweller on the threshold originated in 19th century mystical literature, most notably in Edward Bulwer Lytton's novel Zanoni, but its roots go deeper into Gnostic, Hermetic, and Theosophical traditions. Unlike succubi or astral vampires, the dweller is not a separate being. It is the psychic embodiment of our own unresolved spiritual baggage, a sentient echo of all we have repressed, denied, and feared across lifetimes. It guards the liminal boundary between spiritual ignorance and awakening, and no one reaches the higher realms without facing it. It is the test before transcendence, and it is merciless. The dweller has no fixed form. Instead, it shapeshifts into whatever will disturb you most. For some, it appears as a grotesque version of a loved one. For others, a monstrous creature forged from childhood trauma. But its most terrifying aspect is that it knows exactly what will break you. Its form is custom designed to mirror your greatest fears, your deepest shame, your forgotten pain. Esoteric writer Alice Bailey referred to it as an astral double, a warped, animated projection of the lower self that resists change at all costs. It doesn't want you to evolve, because if you do, it ceases to exist. The dweller typically emerges during intense spiritual practice, prolonged meditation, deep astral projection, psychedelic journeys, near-death experiences, advanced initiation rites. It's the final threshold before higher consciousness can be attained, but it is not just symbolic. People who faced it describe hauntingly vivid encounters, full-body paralysis, terrifying visions, and voices that seem to come from inside their own minds, speaking with authority and venom. These are not hallucinations. These are confrontations with the most intimate parts of the self, made external on the astral plane, and they can be brutal. Unlike other astral entities, the dweller does not aim to drain energy or cause injury. Its goal is far more devastating. To break your will, it uses self-doubt like a dagger. It whispers failures, resurrects traumas, and distorts memory. It may appear as a parent's disappointed gaze, the mocking sneer of a childhood bully, the rotting face of a person you wronged. Its purpose is to overwhelm you with your own darkness, to convince you that you are unworthy of transformation, and many, spiritually speaking, never recover. Accounts from mystics and occult practitioners across centuries describe encounters that follow a similar arc. It spoke my thoughts before I did. It knew everything I'd hidden from the world, and showed me things I'd buried for years. It wasn't just a demon. It was me, staring back through a twisted mask I didn't know I wore. The terrifying part is not the appearance, it's the recognition. The dweller forces you to witness yourself unfiltered, to see how you've avoided growth, wounded others, or built a life on illusions. It is the mirror in the haunted house, and it never blinks. The only way to overcome the dweller is not through flight or force, but through truth. Occult traditions offer one universal teaching. You must face the dweller with absolute honesty. That means admitting your flaws, owning your guilt, forgiving what you've done and what's been done to you. When confronted with this entity, those who stand their ground, who speak their truth without shame or fear, often report that the being begins to dissolve, like smoke in sunlight. The famous esoteric phrase is, "You have no power over me." But those words only work when truly meant. The dweller feeds on self-deception. It dies in the presence of self-knowledge. As terrifying as it is, the dweller is not your enemy. It is your test. Its purpose is to challenge your readiness to ascend, to ensure that the ego has been dissolved, that shadow has been integrated, and that your higher self is fully awake. Because what waits beyond the threshold is not just another realm, but a different version of you, and you cannot reach it while lying to yourself. That is the dweller's lesson. One every serious seeker must learn. We've now encountered an entity that holds up a mirror to the soul, but not all dangers of the astral plane come from within. In the next chapter, we turn our gaze outward once again, toward a class of entities that roam not with seduction or shape-shifting, but with an insatiable, silent hunger. They are the astral vampires, and their touch leaves behind no mark but total exhaustion. Prepare yourself. The next descent begins. Chapter 4. The Astral Vampires, Feeders in the Night. Thus far, we've encountered entities that seduce, deceive, and mirror the soul's shadow. But now we face something quieter and far more chilling. These beings don't speak. They don't transform. They don't trick. They simply feed. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's already too late. Welcome to the domain of the astral vampires, silent parasites that drift between worlds, drawn to your pain, your fear, your exhaustion, and your energy. They have no names, no eyes, no mercy, only hunger. Astral vampires are entities that exist within the lower dimensions of the astral plane. They do not possess form in the traditional sense, but appear as shadowy presences, vaporous, clouds, or distorted human-like figures barely clinging to shape. Unlike succubi or the dweller, these beings lack identity or individuality. They are driven by a singular motive: to drain life force, the raw energetic essence that fuels human vitality, emotion, and will. In many traditions, they are called energy parasites, spectral feeders, psychic leeches. You won't see them in dreams or rituals, you'll feel them. Occult texts and esoteric traditions categorize astral vampires into two main types: the degenerated dead. These are remnants of once human souls who, due to extreme malice, addiction, or spiritual stagnation in life, fail to ascend after death. Trapped in the lower astral, they linger close to the physical plane, desperate for the energy they can no longer generate themselves. Primordial feeders. Far more disturbing are the entities that were never human to begin with. These are ancient astral intelligences, creatures born from collective suffering, lingering in darkened spaces where trauma festers. They are shapeless, silent, and utterly alien. Both are drawn to suffering like sharks to blood. These vampires don't roam at random. They nest in environments saturated with emotional or physical pain. Hospitals, asylums, battlefields, funeral homes, homes marked by chronic depression or abuse. They are also drawn to individuals in states of prolonged vulnerability. The grieving, the traumatized, the substance dependent, the spiritually fractured. If your aura is cracked, if your energy is leaking, they will find you. Unlike physical vampires, these beings don't bite. They press in, hover, and attach to your energetic body, typically during sleep or moments of unconsciousness. The symptoms of an astral vampire attack can include waking up with severe fatigue despite long rest, chronic low mood with no obvious cause, sudden anxiety or depression that feels foreign, weight on the chest, especially during sleep paralysis, recurring nightmares of darkness, suffocation, or unseen eyes. Over time, this energetic depletion may result in real-world consequences: weakened immune function, emotional instability, insomnia, deterioration of mental health, and perhaps most frighteningly, a persistent feeling of being watched. These entities don't manifest in the visual spectrum. Instead, they operate just beneath perception, in the spaces between waking and sleep. That's why so many attacks occur. Between 3 and 4 a.m., the the traditional witching hour during lucid dreams gone wrong after intense emotional breakdowns. They feed not just on fear, but on the act of attention itself. The more you fixate on them, the more they feed. It is a parasitic loop. They want you aware, but paralyzed. While terrifying, astral vampires are not invincible. Like all lower entities, their presence depends on vibration. The higher your energetic frequency, the more repelled they are. This is why most esoteric traditions emphasize prevention through energy hygiene, not combat. Practical protections include visualization rituals. Surround your body in white or gold light before sleep. Cleansing smoke. Burn protective herbs like frankincense, copal, or palo santo regularly. Salt rituals. Place Himalayan salt bowls in corners of the bedroom, or bathe with sea salt to neutralize negative energy. Crystals. Keep black tourmaline, obsidian, or amethyst under your pillow or near your bed. Spiritual practice. Meditation, prayer, mantra repetition, anything that builds intentional focus and clarity. But the most powerful protection of all, emotional stability. These entities cannot hook into you if your energy is balanced, clean, and anchored in willpower. In the end, astral vampires are not just external threats, they are reminders. Reminders that unresolved emotion makes us vulnerable, that neglected wounds leak energy, that unconscious living attracts unconscious forces. They are scavengers of the soul. But only when the soul forgets how to shine. You don't need to fear them, you need to know yourself. Guard your thoughts, cleanse your spirit. Recognize when something is draining you and call it by name. Because in the astral plane, awareness isn't just power, it's survival. We have now descended into the astral plane and returned. We've seen the entities that seduce with beauty, manipulate with fear, mirror our flaws, and drain us dry. But all of them share one truth. They can only exist where our light is dim. The astral realm is not a realm of monsters. It is a reflection of you, of humanity, of every emotion we've ever buried, feared, or denied. To navigate it safely is not just a mystical act, it's a moral one. So stay vigilant, stay luminous, and remember, the veil between worlds is thinner than you think. If you found meaning, insight, or warning in this series, subscribe and join me for our next descent. Because what waits in the dark doesn't sleep, and knowledge is the only light that never fades.